Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with allthingsbbq.com, and this is Philly Cheesesteak Queso. Well, today we're essentially going to deconstruct a Philly cheesesteak, rearrange things, bump up the cheese, and serve it as queso. Now, this is perfect for any game day appetizer, party dip, or literally any random weekday when you feel like eating queso. Now we're gonna get started with the hoagie roll. Now this seems like the weirdest part to try to work into a queso, which is why we're not going to work it into a queso. We're gonna slice it up, we're gonna toast it off, and we'll use this in place of chips with our queso. So I sliced up some hoagie rolls yesterday and left these out just covered with a towel so they could kind of get a little bit stale. It's not necessary, you could definitely do this from soft, fresh bread, but it does help this go just a little bit quicker. So what we're doing here, laying them all out fairly, try to go single layer. If there's a little overlapping, no big deal. We just want to hit them with a little bit of fat. I'm using the spray duck fat for this. We're gonna put a little bit of seasoning on and then throw them in the grill. I'm gonna season these with the same thing we're seasoning our steak with today, and that's the Cattleman's Grill Lone Star. This is very simply salt, pepper, garlic, celery seed. A great base for steaks, obviously for briskets, for a lot of things. We're gonna get it loaded up into our little pod here to grind this down. We want it fairly fine. Just use the Fina mill. So we're breaking this down fine just like we will for the steak later today, just so that these big pieces, they kind of stand out on their own in the larger chunks. You don't want to necessarily just straight bite into that. It's great for long cooks, but if you're doing a quick cook, I'd rather have a little bit broken down spice rather than big chunks. Now today we're cooking on the Napoleon P500 RSIB, and this gas grill is pretty versatile. We're gonna have several different setups here. I'll show you what I mean as we get in here. So we're gonna slide this here on the right side of the grill where our burners are completely off underneath. Now on the left side, we've got our griddle set up high heat. This is where we're going to sear our steak off, cook our peppers and our onions, and then all the way down here at the end, we've got our side burner where we're gonna cook the queso. So next we're gonna do a little knife work. We've got red and green bell peppers and some yellow onion that we need to get sliced up. All right, so we're gonna cut these pole to pole so they're all roughly the same size. Not going super thin, probably about 1/4 of an inch. Then with the peppers, I kind of like this, like getting the curve of the pepper in here. There's 100 ways to cut a pepper. This is not the right way to do it all the time, but it's what we're doing today. So now we got the seeds out of there. We're just gonna come in here and also do about 1/4 inch slices. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing with the green bell. All right, it's only been about 10 minutes on these toasts, but you can see they're getting nice and crispy, still a little bit of softness in the middle, which is what we're going for. Let's pull them off. Moving on to our steak now. Today we are cooking up a really beautiful prime ribeye from Creekstone Farms. I'm gonna hit it with just a little bit of duck fat just to help our fine ground Cattleman's Lone Star attach to that meat. So since we're gonna do a sear on a griddle today, a flat surface, I wanna make sure that this rub is broken down fine so that the large pieces don't just scorch on the surface. And with it all ground down fine now, it just kind of melts right in to the steak. It's ready pretty much immediately to go throw on the griddle. So our burners underneath the griddle now are sitting at about medium high. We want to get a really nice sear on the surface of this. We're going to cook it whole today, which is kind of weird for a cheesesteak, but it's going to hit the griddle one more time, which means we're only taking this up to about 120 before we take it off to slice it. Now the main reason I'm choosing to cook the steak whole today is because I want to get some of that fat rendered out of it so that we can then cook the onions and the peppers in the beef fat. Also, we're going to get some of the fond left behind from the meat right there on the surface, and we can work that right into our peppers and onions as well. So couple that with the fact that it's a lot easier to slice a steak when it's cooked than when it's raw, and it just made sense to do it whole. So I've been cooking with the door open the entire time so far. Oh yeah, we're starting to get a nice golden sear on there. I'm gonna take this heat all the way up so that we can get a nice crust on the other side as well. But yeah, it's feeling crunchy. That's looking really nice now. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it off, and we're gonna get our onions and peppers on here right away to cook in that beef fat. Let's just help it along with this a little bit. Duck fat as well. We're gonna hit this with some of that Lone Star as well. Salt, pepper, garlic. We don't need to go nuts. There's gonna be plenty of salt in the cheese. So let's just kind of keep it moving around. We want to get softened up a bit and a little bit of color. All right, so let's get this thing sliced up. I'm actually just gonna take that spinalis right off, and we'll slice that on its own. And break this down. Just do thin slices from here. And throw this back in with the juice collected in the pan there as it was resting. All right, now to be ready to go back on the griddle just to crisp up here in a little bit. Coming right along, cooking with the lid closed now so that we can get this softened up. We're getting some good blistering, a little bit of browning. Just needs a little bit more time. So we're gonna start our queso with about a tablespoon of minced garlic and a cup of half and half. And we wanna bring this up to a simmer, during which time we're also gonna add a couple more flavoring agents. We're gonna do a tablespoon each of Worcestershire sauce and Pitfire hot sauce, mostly for that vinegary tang, not so much for the heat as it is pretty mild. Give this a whisk, kind of warm that garlic through and bring this all up to a simmer. Peppers and onions are looking great. Got all the color we need. We got them softened up. Let's get them off the griddle. Coming up to a simmer, we're gonna start adding our first addition of cheeses, which is good old processed white American cheese. We'll put about half of it in here for now, whisk until that's melted, and then add the other half. All right, first round, it's melted down. Let's put the rest of our American cheese in there. We'll whisk this until it's smooth, and then we're gonna start with our second cheese, which is smoked provolone. So that's 1.5 pounds there of white American. We're going to be adding now 12 ounces of smoked provolone. So that's 2 parts white American to 1 part smoked provolone. I just bought slices and diced them up. They've been sitting out here as we shoot, and it's, you know, in the 90s out here, so it's starting to look kind of greasy, but that's why it looks a little bit weird. Should work out just fine. So you can see how the texture of this has changed. That American gives us the creamy, while the provolone gives us the stringy. Pretty great combination. So with the cheese just about done, just hanging out over there, we're gonna warm and crisp our ribeye back on the griddle. Combine it with our veggies, which have been hanging out, staying warm over here on this side of the grill, and then we'll be ready to bring it all together. You just need a little bit of crisp on the outside. That's really all we're looking to do. Get a little texture, warm it through once again. Only takes a couple of minutes. That looks good. We're gonna get this off. So we're just going to assemble everything right here in the skillet. Put our peppers and onions down on top of our queso. We'll top that off with our ribeye, and then just serve it with your toasted hoagie slices for dipping. All right, let's get a taste. Look at that. That looks good. All that wonderful savoriness of a Philly cheesesteak, the peppers, the onions. This ribeye, so tender, great crisp on the outside, and just swimming in American and provolone cheeses. Love the crunch of the hoagie chips. Forget about tortilla chips. We don't want to go down that route with this anyway. You'd be fine if you did. But the hoagie chips, great little addition. And like I said, it allows us to incorporate essentially all of the parts of a cheesesteak into this one queso spread. You're gonna want to bust this one out for the football season for sure. Well, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out allthingsbbq.com for all the products featured in today's video. If you enjoy the recipe, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to allthingsbbq.com/thesauce. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.